Welcome to the Real Money Show, the number 18778 Silver, the website guildhallwealth.com. Guildhall is the place to own actual physical gold and silver, especially in a registered account like your RSP, TFSA, Lira, LIF, RIF. And it's held on an allocated, segregated basis. It's unencumbered. You own it. You control it. If you want to deregister, you can take delivery, but you can also set up an appointment to go and personally audit your holding, which fulfills the motto, if you can't hold it, you don't own it. And that's what this is, fully allocated product. My name is Jeremy Wiseman. I'm joined by Jerry Correia.
Hello, hello.
And today, Jerry, let's get critical, baby. Let's get critical. Silver news this week came out that the U.S. Department of the Interior has officially proposed, which means it's going to happen, of adding silver to its list of critical minerals alongside copper, potash. And this was just a couple days ago before we recorded the show. Yes, while it's technically still just proposed, it's widely expected to be finalized. And this is a major shift in how governments view silver. It's now no longer just a commodity. It is now a strategic resource. We're going to get into what it means. But Jerry, first, your reaction to that news.
Very positive reaction. We've been calling for that here, especially here in Canada, for silver to also be added. We're stressing that silver is the most critical of them all. And it's a very exciting time seeing that the light at the end of the tunnel for silver being added to the list is here. Canada will likely capitulate eventually, fall in line with a North American style, a counter front in the commodities push. But this is a big one. This designation signals that silver is no longer just treated as a simple commodity. It's well beyond that. We know it has dual role, critical designations in terms of industry, but it's now being used on a monetary reserve level with countries coming on board with silver as well.
And this isn't the first time that there's been mention of this. Our listeners of the show know we've been tracking the idea and concept of silver being a critical metal for actually years now. You brought to the show, Jerry, I remember you discussing that Keith Neumeyer of First Majestic and others were petitioning the Canadian government to make sure that silver was a strategic metal. And now we've known about it. Our listeners understand it. It's used in military operations. It's used in every digital and technological items that are out there. So this isn't a major surprise, but it sends a signal to the market that it is critical to the economy that they have physical silver, which means now there will be an impetus to maybe go after mines that close down, right? Get some old mines operational, get recycling going.
Get the red tape out of the way.
As you mentioned, get the red tape out of the way. But as you mentioned about Canada, well, you know, we have our Ring of Fire. We produce silver. How does the U.S. make that connection stronger and get a hold of that? But at the same time, it makes me wonder, Jerry, if this is not necessarily the U.S. leading the charge, but that they're late to the game. Mm-hmm. I think you could probably argue that this is already late to the game.
Well, we are following this. We have, along with Goldfix, Vince Lancey's report, we have been asserting, and it's based on evidence and our belief, our gut, we've been following these trends, that silver is just being stockpiled in places like China, Russia, and other nations since the 2023 BRICS summit using their sovereign wealth funds. And now we're seeing many more silver headlines, just acquiring as much silver as possible. India is just setting more records as they just pumped another 14 tons in June, surpassing last year's efforts in just acquiring and accumulating as much silver as possible. This is a shift just going beyond trying to advance technologically and being the forefront. No, this is about life or death, Jeremy. This is why they call it a critical mineral. When it comes down to your natural security issues, This is going to cause, this critical status leads to a synchronized buying and subsidy race with demand realized immediately while supply exhaustion lags. And we look at the other two examples where we saw this. First was the lithium market where they announced that it had critical designation. After the U.S. listed lithium in 2018, automakers and investors rushed to secure their reserves. Supply increased, and then the prices drove for lithium from under 10,000 per ton to in 2020 to over 70,000 per ton 2 years later. And we also saw this in uranium as well, a very similar pattern. So will we see this in the silver market? Of course you will. This is exactly what happens. In uranium, the U.S. efforts to secure non-Russian supply coupled with the announcement of strategic uranium reserves, it triggered stockpiling and investment. Uranium prices climbed from $20 a pound in 2018 to over $100 a pound in 2024 in 6 years. Just multiplied 5 times.
The number 18778 silver, the website guildhallwealth.com. We're talking about silver being proposed by the U.S. Department of the Interior to be officially a critical metal. Now, what you just mentioned, Jerry, and showed proof of is that now that it is considered a critical metal, that you're going to see investment into mines. You're going to see investment into probably ETFs. You're going to start to see the price climb. And of course, it's not like you can snap your fingers and get a mine going. So supply side doesn't just happen out of the blue, but the demand side could increase significantly as a result. And so what we've seen in the past is that having being titled critical, which again, all of us already knew. All of our listeners already knew. And if you already have it in your portfolio, you already knew this, which is great. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to you guys. But that this is now the opening. The race is just starting.
Yeah.
The race for the commodities is just starting. And this isn't just going to be a national play in the U.S. This becomes a global play. That's why we've been tracking how much silver over time, China's been getting. We've been saying, oh, look, Russia wants to add it to their reserves. India's buying it. And so we already know that the race is on. So I kind of believe that this is a little bit of a too late call, but it also signals that they're going to be making big moves to procure that metal. And that's a boom and a boon for those who are invested or those who want to get a hold of that physical metal now.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be a part of this. This is a major shift. And if we look back at the lithium and uranium templates for their gains, it was only a few years where they announced the designation. 3, 4, 5 years later, we had a multiplying effect. So what would happen if silver were to had a lithium type of an example where in 60 months, 4.5 times, you end up at silver at $171 an ounce, and that's 60 months. If it was just 2 years, we end up at $130 an ounce. If silver took on uranium's template on how it performed after designation as a critical mineral, in 2 years, silver would be $70 an ounce, and in 60 months, $117 an ounce. But if you had a base case, well, blended between the two, in 2 years, you have $100 an ounce silver, and in 60 months, you have $144 per ounce silver price. So multiplying effect happens here, and this is what's happening in the commodity space. It's not happening in the financial space where it's easy peasy. Here's some paper for you. You want a lot. You want a basket of ETFs. Here you go, 20,000, poof, up in thin air. That's how you get it. They just created, a million tether just recently. This is out of thin air, right? This is what's backing Bitcoin. So you can't just procure and snap your fingers. You have commodities out of the ground. This is going to take some time, but it's going to pay off for those who have it. It will be a boon for investors. Get in touch. You want to get your silver today.
And this is the important thing, is that you want to own actual physical product, not exposure to the market, but actual physical gold and silver. And that's what we do at Guildhall Wealth. The number 18778-SILVER, the website guildhallwealth.com, will show you how to acquire physical gold and silver to hold in a registered account like a LIRA, LIF, RSP, TFSA, maybe even your kids' RESP. You know, if you've got 15 years before they go to university, hopefully the universities won't be as woke as they are today. But if you have plans for making universities great again,
I know Lutnick wants to.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, right? Why not own some physical gold and silver now? I can tell you, Jerry, as someone who has done that in an RESP, it has been amazing to have physical gold and silver in an RESP. It's been the easiest acquisition I could think of.
Makes so much sense. Silver and gold for the future.
Yeah, and look, they're hedging against the devaluing of the dollar. The dollar, U.S., Canadian dollar, they're not getting stronger. They're only going to print more. They've got higher debts. The way you pay off those debts is with a lowered value dollar. As Greenspan once said, we can always pay back our debts. We just can't guarantee the purchasing power of the dollar when we do. And that's one of the biggest reasons why you should be starting to think about holding physical gold and silver. The number 18778-SILVER, the website guildhallwealth.com. There are countries out there that are looking to get into the precious metals market and are already making moves into the silver market. One is making a pretty big splash with even just a small, tiny investment. It's a central bank, and we're going to tell you which central bank after this. 18778-SILVER, the website, guildhallwealth.com. One of the things that we specialize here at Guildhall Wealth and have been doing for the last decade is helping clients to hold physical gold and silver in registered accounts. We help them open their account. We help them to make their acquisition of physical gold and silver. The product is then deposited into the client's personal sub-account at the vault. And it's great. And the gains have been excellent. Jerry, I've been going through some of the book. It is so wonderful to see the type of gains that people have been making in these markets.
So true.
And it's wonderful as part of their retirement to see those gains and to have that security built over time. And a lot of people will start with, you know, smaller amounts, 10, 15,000, 20,000, where they're trying to increase their wealth. They're trying to get ahead. I wouldn't call it speculating, but it's wealth building. And then you move into other types of clients who are adding to their positions because they're looking to give a boost to their retirement. They have this retirement fund. Maybe someone's been managing it for them for years and years, and they're just not satisfied with the gains, and they're looking for a little bit of a boost. They know it's not a lottery ticket, but hey, give me some decent returns. And while gold and silver are not investments and we are not financial advisors, the fact is that the dollar keeps losing value and gold and silver keep going up as a result. And the gains have been spectacular. I mean, yes, ad nauseum, I will say it. Gold's up over 700% in the last 20 years. Silver's up over 550%. And we're just getting started. How do we know we're just getting started? Because we're talking about the fact that silver is now being considered as a critical resource. Critical to not just the economy, but to the running of the country. Now, we call it a metal. The Department of the Interior is going to call it a mineral. In fact, it is both. But for our purposes, people are buying the metal, right? Now, more and more sovereign wealth funds are getting into the mix. We saw last year the billionaire, forget his first name,
James Bateman.
James Bateman got into the market, put in $1 billion into the silver market. Didn't buy an ETF, didn't get a certificate. He bought the real thing. The real thing. Went out and got the real thing. And he is talking his book. He
Every
is
day.
talking his book. Good for him.
He's on the boards all the time. Very vocal. Gotta follow him.
Good for him. He's already up, I am sure. But he is not the only one. Now, besides countries like China and India acquiring the metal, or Russia signaling that they want it as a reserve asset, we now see that this just came out a couple days ago. Saudi Arabia's central bank, you ready for this, Jerry?
I am.
Of course you are. You already know about this. You probably texted me about it.
Please share.
They invested $40 million into the silver ETF along with miners. Now, I thought that was strange because, we're always talking about central banks don't buy stocks, they buy the real thing. So what's going on here? Mm-hmm. So I did a little digging, and yeah, it turns out that Saudi Arabia has like a sovereign wealth fund, like Switzerland does the same thing, where it allows their central bank to buy stocks. So that's what this is a part of. Well, let's start with your reaction, Jerry. $40 million into a silver ETF from Saudi Arabia, their central bank, their sovereign wealth fund. What does that mean to you, and what do you think it means to the market?
Well, right off the bat, I'm like, why are they buying the shares? Okay. What is the size of this million share? The million shares represents less than 0.2% of the overall amount of ounces in the iShares Silver Trust, the largest silver ETF run by BlackRock. But what happens if they went big? And you brought up a very good scenario. Okay.
I did?
Yeah. With the ETF, you can opt out to have that ETF lent.
Yes.
So these ETFs are being used as leverage to do other things in the market. And most of the things that they're used to do in the market is to short the silver price, to suppress prices. So what if they opted into the market? Okay, they laddered in. This is a rather small move, 37 million. But what happens if they bumped it up to a 50% stake or 70%? They have the money to do this. They could buy 90% of the SLV. Imagine if they did. They could theoretically redeem and take delivery of 427 million ounces. Or what if they bought 90% of the SLV? You wouldn't be able to borrow at all the SLV shares. You do so much more constructive things in the silver market versus detrimental. At first, you wanted to be like, what are they doing? Don't they know? But of course they knew, Jeremy. They're back at it. Did you know in 1979, the Hunt brothers, when they were organizing themselves in the silver market and taking a huge position, they had set up a web of companies in the Bahamas, Bermuda, Switzerland, and I got this information by Chris Marcus from Arcadia, to give cover for the purchasing of silver on behalf of a group that included Lebanese businesses and the Saudi prince. So to me, Saudi's back in it, and this is shortly after a massive deal with the U.S. People are brokering deals with the U.S. left, right, and center. Nothing is stopping this golden age. This is a golden age, which is including silver, and a massive revaluation for the SWP, which is the Strategic Wealth Funds. They're all doing it. The SWF, I should say, wealth funds. U.S. has one. China has one. The Saudi Arabia has. I don't think Canada has one, but I think we should jump on board. We have to do it ourselves.
The number 18778 the website guildhallwealth.com. You're just demonstrating, Jerry, just what the tip of the iceberg this $40 million or 37 plus mining stocks into the silver ETFs is for Saudi Arabia and what it can signal to the market, right? We know that Trump and Saudi Arabia are pretty cozy with one another. We know that Saudi Arabia made a big deal. It was one of the first deals that Trump made when he got in office was, hey, you guys are going to invest how much in our country? I wonder if this is a portion of that. Hey, we'll invest in your country and we'll buy the silver ETF. I love the angle that you took there of being a critical metal means that it can no longer be manipulated. You can't afford to have the market being manipulated. Correct. Because it messes with supply, it messes with all of these things that and honestly, I think someone might say, well, if you manipulate it, get it cheaper. Yeah, but you can't mine it then.
That's the voice they have too.
That's their voice. Well, but if it's super cheap, there's a real world consequence, which is, well, then you're not mining it. Okay, there's no motivation to mine it, and so now you're just out of it, right? You also understand that this current administration wants productivity, and they want profits for everybody, not just for the government itself, which means open those mines, make that money. That is good for the economy. Seeing a higher silver price is good for the economy. You want to see people who make money. And the other part of that, Jerry, is I'm going off a little bit of a tangent, but hey, it's the Real Money Show. That's what we do here. People who own precious metals often have a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. And they're the ones who, if you give them $1 million, they will create businesses.
Oh, yeah.
They will employ people. They will get the economy going. Now, I don't know if the administration's that deep on this stuff, but certainly it has a factor. There's a mindset for people who do own precious metals, and it's not all just, conspiracy theories and how to protect yourself against, calamity. But getting back to Saudi Arabia, I think this is fantastic. I think that, to your point, Jerry, that it can start to put a floor on using the ETF to manipulate the market. I think it shows that they believe the price is going up. Otherwise, why invest in it? The fact that it's on their radar at all. And I know it's just $40 million to a sovereign wealth fund like Saudi Arabia. I mean, we're talking not even a pebble in the water, probably. But to us, it's important.
Yes.
To us, it's huge. To those in the silver market, it's huge. And when you combine that piece of news with the critical mineral aspect of the Department of the Interior saying that, I think you're starting to connect dots. Again, throw in Bateman into this. Man, this is just starting to look really good in the market. I mean, how could you not be loading the boat right now?
All the roads are leading to one place. All the roads are leading towards gold. All the roads are leading towards silver. This is money. It's divisible, portable, durable, recognizable, and scarce. The money that you have in your bank, the currency, is not scarce. It's making you poorer and poorer and poorer. Now is the time to convert out of that fiat trap, that trap that they set for you and your families and your generations to come. This was set out for you. You have an escape hatch.
Yeah, a lot of people out there have just acquiesced to lowering their expectations over time. That's it. Just lower your expectations and, just accept it. And I think that you don't have to. And hope springs eternal. Mm-hmm. And, hey, if silver's going to go to 140, I'm getting bigger and bigger numbers. Jerry, do you remember a time where people said it could only, if it only went to 50 or gold only went to $10,000? I mean, what we're seeing right now with higher and higher numbers is they're not just trying to get clicks. They're seeing the numbers. And if you can see it, you can believe it, and you get to these new levels and you start to say, oh, well, maybe it can go higher. Maybe it is worth more. Maybe I'm worth more, right? This is sort of the cycle up of confidence, if you will, and you start to see it. You can believe it.
Yeah.
Silver today is trading just shy of $39 an ounce. Gold's trading just shy of $3,400. It was $39.98 just before we started the radio show today, and we're recording on Wednesday. So who knows what's going to happen between the end of the today and the end of the week. So things are looking up in the market, and you're seeing all of these new sources of demand in the market. It's unbelievable. You
know what, Jeremy? You hit that spot for me personally when you talked about stop accepting less and less and less, and that's what we're doing as a society here in Canada. Canadians are accepting the budget. We're accepting to reduce costs. It's austerity. We're cutting everything out. I don't want to put my kids in private school. I'm going to put them into this school over here. Fine. I'm going to not eat the AAA. I'm going to go with the AA. Double A meat. I'm not going to eat. No. Yeah. It's time to level up, convert away from depreciating mindsets, depreciating assets, depreciating fiat currencies, and move towards stepping into this age where we're going to be highlighting values of financial resilience, independence, and ultimately your freedom for yourself and for your family. Canada, we have not thrown in the towel, and nor will we ever. We're going to be stronger, and I believe this push towards critical minerals. Canada was number one in silver. Let that hit home. We were number one in the silver market that has only 2 billion 2 billion tons, is it, Jeremy?
I don't know. I don't know. But if Obama talked like that about Biden, I mean, that guy would get in again, or Kamala, I should say. Like, man, that was inspiring. I am logging on right now to guildhallpreciousmetals.com and picking up some more gold and some more silver.
Great. Yes. Well, that's how you do it. You build a lasting monetary reserve for yourself and for your futures. Explore the e-store. We got you covered. Competitive pricing, whether you're accumulating for the first time or you're even gifting. Try a tube of maples. It'll go a long way.
The number 18778-SILVER. The website, guildhallpreciousmetals.com, if you want to acquire some physical metal. Lots of reasons to be getting involved in the gold and silver market. We've talked about silver being considered a critical mineral, a critical metal. We've talked about investments from around the world getting into the silver market and how that could drive prices significantly higher, especially now that it's been considered a critical metal, and that this designation will drive investment, will drive dollars into the market. And that's great for our clients, Jerry, and great for those who want to get in on this as the market could move significantly higher, as we've seen in other markets. Like you mentioned uranium, for instance. Now, there's another side of the economic world, of the monetary world, which is we're seeing the tension between the current administration in the U.S. and the Federal Reserve. Of course, for those who know, it's a cabal, a banking cabal invented in 1913. It's the reason Americans pay income tax, and they control the money. You don't want to take them head on. Those that have faced them head on have faced uncertain futures. Let's say untimely fates, as it were.
Say that again.
Untimely fates, as it were. So let's talk about the Fed. There's been some interesting moves at the Fed, and I think there's an asymmetric war on the Fed, if you ask me, of the government versus the Fed. So the first was Reserve Governor Lisa Cook was removed. People were up in arms on X about this, except that they seemed to forgot that SCOTUS just had a ruling that the president can remove whoever he feels he wants to remove from an independent government agency. Now, I don't know if the Federal Reserve is designated as a government industry. They're always talking about their independence, and the fact of the matter is it's a private institution. It just happened to be put in place by the Congress's agreement. Mm-hmm. So,
and we're seeing a lot of this happening, a lot of this type of story about removing funding from non-governmental agencies. Just saying.
She was removed because she listed her home. She listed 2 homes as her principal property, right?
Someone said 2 principal properties.
Someone said that's everyday transactions here in Canada, but not a good look for a reserve governor. Now, Jerry, give us that was just the primer. Give us the really good news.
Well, we just had the appointment of Stephen Moran in the United States to the Federal Reserve. This is just not another personnel move shifting. This guy is the heavy hitter. He's the mastermind behind what has been dubbed the Mara Lago Accord. And this is the man who is literally that Trump is selecting to become the reset architect inside the very institution that will help carry out America's most ambitious economic overhaul in generations. Ambitious is brave, I should say. What they're doing is something that is going against the very purpose of a central bank, which is to be fiat, which is to be, we make the rules and, we print the currency. What they're doing is they're going back to sound money. They're moving towards a reset that will include gold, that will include the Strategic Wealth Fund of the United States. And it's something that you're going to have. You're going to have this headbutting between the old guard and the new guard. So I'd highly recommend following Matt Smith. He has a comprehensive analysis of what is behind the Mar-a-Lago Accord. And basically, it's flipping the U.S. dollar's reserve status from being a burden, which we know the U.S. dollar has been, into a bargaining chip to turn America's towering debt from an embarrassment into leverage and to reorient the entire global economic structure in Washington's favor. And of course, what makes this extremely relevant right now is, particularly for anyone with gold exposure, is this timing. This is very much like in this paper that was cited by, or that was posted by internationalman.com. We just posted this on our X, but his position is a game changer. We know next week, Besant just came out and he said they're going to be meeting 11 strong Fed chair candidates next after Labor Day. We'll start interviews and present a short list to President Trump. And what this is really like, Jeremy, was we know that the U.S. dollar is going to be weaker. We know that the U.S. dollar has already weakened more than 10% over the past 6 months. It's on a downward spiral, in fact, not because of the interest rate cuts, but what's happening structurally in the U.S. The last time the dollar fell this much early in the year was in 1973, right after the U.S. finalized its break from the gold and the fiat era fully took hold. But this was very much in line with the Plaza Accord, when in 1985 finance ministers gathered to discuss and coordinate the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. Now, a lot of countries were against that, but with pressure, Washington applied pressure with tariffs, import surcharges, quotas. We're seeing that now, aren't we? We're seeing this positioning for what's coming. And guess what? It worked. West Germany, Japan, they all caved. The economic powerhouses of this day caved. But why it worked, in this paper says by Federal International Man, the Federal Reserve was on board. The Fed Chairman Volcker, he coordinated closely with James Baker, the Treasury Secretary, to ensure monetary policy backed the dollar devaluation strategy. But what this leads to is higher asset prices in gold and everything else. This is the reset, and it's happening whether you like it or not. All eyes on the Fed, because what we know is what the Fed was doing before in impoverishing the nation, in sending money left to right all over the world on the backs of the savers and the workers. Those days are done.
And I think as well, just to go back to the Mara Lago Accord, is this new...
He's the architect.
Yeah, but he wants a lower dollar.
Yes.
That's what this comes down to, is they want a lower value dollar. It's easier to pay the debts. It's easier to service the debts. And this is what Rick Rule's talked about almost in every interview he does, right? Rick Rule talks about this is like a repeat of the 70s. It's going to be lower and lower value of the dollar. And so why wouldn't you want to own a hard asset that clearly went up very well during the 70s, and that there's more reasons to be involved in it today? I think it's not just a single, unidimensional narrative. I think there's multiple narratives pushing towards this, and one is what's happening in India, and we'll tell you another something else to add to the gold market in the next segment. The number 1-877-8-SILVER, the website guildhallwealth.com. Guildhall is your source to hold physical gold and silver within a registered account so that you can take advantage of this bull market. Jerry, I saw that India is following in the footsteps of China, that, as we've reported on the show, that the insurance world in China is starting to invest in physical gold. And it's obviously a good thing. We've talked about it. Why don't pension funds hold physical gold? It's like a no-brainer to want to have that as a hedge against the devaluing dollar and have something negatively correlated to the dollar. But that's just not what they do. Well, they're doing it in China. Insurance companies are starting to do it. Well, now in India, insurance companies are proposing the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're seeing the gains. They're seeing the opportunity. They see that it's worthwhile. Seems like a good idea to me.
Absolutely. They definitely are doing a lot for their people there in India, really highlighting the importance of ownership of real assets, carving out some wealth outside of paper, outside of the banking system. Own some physical. The female population in India, I think they own more gold than some sovereigns. So you have a powerful future ahead for India. They're changing the rules. They're looking to utilize their own domestic prices for their own ETFs. And the Indian ETF market is just overheating right now. Another 14 million ounces since June. India's on fire for silver, and this is not going to stop.
Well, let's turn our attention to another asset that we offer at Guildhall Wealth. You know, some investors want to elevate their portfolio beyond just protection. They want to look into personal expression, timeless value, even legacy building. Tell us a little bit about natural fancy colored diamonds, Jerry.
Well, if you're looking at building a lasting reserve, obviously you want to give us a call. We specialize obviously in LBMA approved precious metals, but the most rare natural fancy colored diamonds that you will ever find for your portfolio that will fit and complement what you have already in existence with your gold, your silver, maybe some platinum, but definitely you want to add a natural fancy colored diamond if you are like me who are concerned about currency devaluation. Securing some wealth outside of the traditional conventional means with time-tested assets that have proven over and over again that rarity is what matters in this market. Generational families have built their wealth with, not too much stocks, not too many paper instruments. You had a lot of land, bonds, gold, and even rare natural fancy colored diamonds. So this is the process. You just want to get in touch, get the guide in your hand, read all about it, and come set up your diamond discovery session to find out why this is for you. If you are one that's focused on legacy building, generational wealth building, and you're not, really in the market for quick flips, we all are interested in quick flips, but this is not part of that for your portfolio. This is a slow, steady decision that will endure for a lifetime. That's easy to pass on. You don't have to get too much red tape and legal representation to pass something like this on. At Guildhall Diamonds, every single stone is procured by the pros here. It's part of our family story and can be part of your family story. You want lasting value that's going to grow with time, not lose with time. And it's not going to lose with trends. We follow the trends, but we are, in our opinion, trendsetters. We're moving against the grain where everyone was moving towards synthetics. That was quick flip. That was the stuff that blew up, and it blew up really quickly, hasn't it, Jeremy?
Yeah, we were talking in the last segment, Jerry, about this kind of adjusting your expectations. I was talking to a client today. Why do you like Costco? He said, well, look, the margins are good, et cetera, et cetera. I said, exactly. People are adjusting themselves to where can I get this cheaper? And when it came to the lab-grown diamonds, it was, I don't have a choice. I can't afford the real Louis Vuitton or the real Gucci. I'm buying the knockoff. And it just so happened that the jewelry stores were happy to sell both, and they just bastardized their own businesses. But, in the market, in a portfolio, there are things that move fast and things that move slow. And not everything has to be about liquidity all the time. Because I'll tell you something, people love that liquidity, and you'll go on to Investopedia and it'll say, well, stocks are liquid because you can sell them quickly. Let me tell you something. A stock that's down 50%, down 60% is the least liquid thing anybody has in their portfolio because it's a loser.
You don't want to say that guy.
And we all have them. Okay? let's be honest. And so I'm talking from personal experience. It's the least liquid thing you have.
I know.
But when it comes to an asset like a natural fancy colored diamond, it's already impossibly rare, the type of assets that we have. We've gone out and vetted these stones. They are incredibly rare. In fact, these are the type of stones that you could try your hardest to find them, and you will not find anything similar. It is very, very difficult, especially when some of these diamonds, only 4 or 5 come out a year. So it's not about flipping them. It's about building your own family story for years to come. This is about not having something that just has sentimental value. It's about something that has your own family's legacy value to it. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing. I heard this story once, Jerry. It was the great granddaughter or the great-granddaughter of Lauren Harris.
Okay.
Had like the last piece in the family, right? Sold the last painting, made something like $800,000, and set her up virtually for life, right? Now, a $20,000 diamond or a $50,000 diamond isn't going to set you up for life, but it can definitely set up the family history for generations to come. So we got about 30 seconds, Jerry.
You know, these are just simple assets that will never go bankrupt. They can't default on promises or obligations. And when you have our governments that are trying to juggle and swindle their way and take money from your pockets and trying to balance the budgets and figure out what they're doing with inflation, while they're trying to figure all that out, this is a set it, forget it. This is what I love about natural fancy color diamonds with Guildhall. Our inventory, you need to check it out, find out how you can also add a natural fancy color stone to your portfolio. You want to give us a call, 1-877-8-SILVER, and the website guildhallwealth.com.
The number, again, 1-877-8-SILVER, the website guildhallwealth.com. Think big, think long term. Give us a call. We're happy to walk you through some of the assets that we offer here. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you to all our listeners for joining us this week, and we can't wait to speak to you next week here on The Real Money Show on 640 Toronto.